the incredible, the fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, come one and come all to a film you've never seen before. But remember, folks, no refunds.
Hello, and welcome to No Refunds, the podcast where we watch bad movies so you don't have to. A Cold North joint. I'm your host, Ben Reynolds, and this week we watched Michael Bay's 2017 film, Transformers: The Last Night. Joining me for this discussion, we have dapper Tim Miller.
Can you pass the joint?
And Patrick the Law Morris.
I'm going to come out real early. Oh, and Tim gets to say hello? I'm going to come out real early and say, this was a masterpiece. Continue.
Check out everything we have going on over at coldnorthpro.com. And if you like what you hear, leave us a rating and review wherever you found our podcast.
What a great website.
And now
so great.
Transformers: The Last Night.
It has been said through the ages, without sacrifice, there can be no victory.
Do you realize
Two species at war,
that you have the most
one flesh,
beautiful face?
one metal.
Do you realize
Optimus Prime has left us.
we're floating in space?
100 billion trillion planets in the cosmos.
Everyone you know
You want to know, don't you?
someday
Why they keep coming here.
will die.
All right. So we've reached the first section of our discussion, which each week we start with the plot. And so we go to the Google plot synopsis. So we Google the movie and we read what it gives us. And so this one is maybe the briefest we've had yet. Humans are at war with the Transformers, and Optimus Prime is gone. The key to saving the future lies buried in the secrets of the past and the hidden history of Transformers on Earth. Now it's up to the unlikely alliance of inventor Cade Yeager, Bumblebee, an English lord, and an Oxford professor to save the world.
Fairly accurate. Pretty vague, but accurate.
Incredibly vague.
Vague enough to interest me, but other than that, I don't know.
I would say it doesn't give the movie enough credit.
Yes, I guess that tells you what happens, but it is so vague, because, I wouldn't want to see, the humans are at war, Optimus Prime is gone, but it's like, they don't even mention the, girl, or the fact that Lennox came back, the little girl, or the fact that Lennox came back.
Lennox was in...
Is that Lennox's music?
Hasn't Lennox been in, 4 of them?
No. Well, 4, including this one.
Yeah, there's only 5 of them.
Yeah, he took a one-film break. So did Turturro. So did somebody else.
Okay. We're going to discuss that later on.
Dude. Well, we can discuss Turturro and Josh Duhamel coming back.
Not more than that.
Duhamel? Is it Duhamel? Dumel?
I think it's Dumel. I say it Dumel. But more than that, I wrote it down. Anthony Hopkins. Let me fucking find it. Shit. This movie was... These movies in general have just been fucking stacked. How do they keep getting these gigantic names to come on board to these movies?
Well, that's my third note was Anthony Hopkins' narration. That had to cost a pretty penny, because I'm pretty sure that I heard that per minute of screen time that he's on in fucking Westworld, it cost HBO $1 million or something like that.
Jesus
So-
Christ.
But that's
That's a
on
bit
screen, I
ridiculous.
guess. But still,
Yeah. But still,
like-
that's a lot of money.
yeah.
All right. Anthony Hopkins, Stanley Tucci, John Goodman, Steve Buscemi, John Malkovich, Hugo Weaving, Kelsey Grammer, and Leonard Nimoy have all been in this franchise. What
Okay,
the
but
fuck?
how many of them have actually appeared?
Hopkins, Stanley Tucci,
Turturro.
Malkovich, Turturro, Kelsey Grammer.
Kelsey Grammer was in these movies?
Yeah,
I don't remember that.
I think he was in the fourth one.
Oh, that makes sense because I haven't seen that one all the way
It's the
through.
worst one.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. All right, well, so yeah, I guess our biggest complaint about this plot synopsis is that it's accurate, but it's just vague or not. It's just
Not
there's
enough
very
information.
little detail. Yeah, it doesn't really build, like, it doesn't mention the fact the like knights at all or anything.
I wanna feel it, Google. I want
The
you to sell me.
history. Yeah, Google should like really like maybe at least mention the Knights of the Round Table somehow. I don't know.
It is called The Last Night.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They could have easily put some sort of interlude with Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table and done something with that.
Yeah,
It's a
I think
pretty
that's-
big integral part of the story.
I would say that is probably the single biggest thing that the Google plot synopsis is missing this week.
Way to fucking go, Google.
You
The
fucked
entire-
it all up.
What
But honestly,
Fuck,
though,
where do you think?
I think you're making a legitimate point here, Ben, because it is such a really strange take on the story of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. It's arguably one of the most unique takes on that story ever, and
Well-
they didn't even mention it.
And the whole fact, like, I kind of thought that it was funny how they like the three-headed dragon, like they brought that up, and I was like, that's not part of the Knights of the Round Table story.
But that dragon was sick as fuck.
Well, yeah, but like that, like when she's like walking them through the museum and telling them how it's all bullshit. The student, okay, I should mention who we're talking about. So when Laura Haddock's character Vivian Wembley is walking the students through the museum and telling them how all of the whole Knights of the Round Table, King Arthur's story is bullshit, and all of that. She like shows that picture of the dragon that she said specifically, and she's like, "Yeah, the dragon never existed," blah blah blah, or whatever. And it's like, well, yeah, I don't even think that picture exists. I'm pretty sure that picture was manufactured for this film.
I mean, can we blame a Transformers movie for its not
Touche,
being?
touche. All right, well, that wraps up our Google plot synopsis. So let's move on to the questions. So each film we go through, we'll revisit these 6 questions to lead our discussion. And our first question is, how bad was it? So, me personally, I thought it was bad, but I did not think it was terrible.
I thought it was bad. I mean, I say it's a masterpiece. I'm joking. I thought it was bad, but yeah, it was bad. But like, so is McDonald's, and I really enjoy McDonald's.
I guess that's so. It's like fast. Well, and that's kind of really what your summer blockbusters are.
And that's
like
especially Transformers. That's what they've always been.
it's really they're the fast food of movies.
Yeah. And you know what? Man, McDonald's has that Western Smokehouse burger now, and it's fucking good. Last night was the Western Smokehouse of the movie industry.
I don't know if I go that far.
All right, Tim, what do you think?
See, I didn't. I liked the movie. I had fun with it, but it is definitely a bad movie. The
Are you saying
plot
it's like a
to it-
McDouble?
Maybe a McDouble, maybe like
It's like a McDouble with like where you got like one of those bad patties that's got the really big chunk of chewy fat in it.
and they forgot to put the sauce on it.
All right. I was going to say it's more like a McRib. It shows up once every few years and disappoints.
Okay,
That's a good one.
okay.
Also,
That-
my
yeah.
dick.
Yeah, that's pretty disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tim would know.
All right. So what made it bad? I mean, I think easily the thing. Its biggest problem was it was way too fucking long.
Oh yeah.
2 hours and 40 minutes or whatever it was. That is far too much runtime for a summer
Transformers.
blockbuster. A summer blockbuster should not be that long.
Yeah,
Like-
I agree.
That's like an epic kind of movie, like an end of a
Lord of the
series
Rings.
kind of movie. Like I'm pretty sure Return of the King was a little bit longer, but like that's the kind of movie that you want to see if of that length. This was
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, Return of
Yeah.
the King was actually significantly longer. Return of the King is like the theatrical
Almost 4
release was like
hours.
3 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But I get your point, and like the movie was way too long. It should have been, and that's coming from someone who was actually really into it. I really enjoyed this movie while I was watching it, and it was too long. It should have stopped at 2 hours.
Yeah, definitely
Agreed.
should have stopped at 2 hours. Well, that's so. The structure of this film. It had 3 distinct acts. The first act was entirely just them introducing characters to us. The second act was those characters explaining what the fuck was happening, and the third act was those characters running from explosions.
Yeah, that's what a Michael Bay movie is. So there were too many characters in this movie. I think that
I had a note. Yeah,
if we have to pick a number 2 sin that this movie committed, it's well, I guess I would say the number 1 sin, and this is just personal, subjective. Don't mix fantasy and sci-fi. That's fucking annoying, and it's cheesy as hell.
See, I don't mind that much. That's like the least of my concerns. And honestly, the worst part about this movie, at least for me, was the villain. It was she
it's
was like
Quintessa.
yeah, she was completely like I
She
don't know
was-
how to explain it.
She was completely detached from the entire story until the very end.
Thank you.
yeah, it's true.
It was
Uh,
Megatron was there for some reason.
Yeah, that I've got a few complaints about, especially considering he ended what was it the fourth movie as Galvatron.
Yeah.
Am I not misremembering that?
No, you're not. He does end the fourth movie as Galvatron, which was badass. I was excited about that. I was disappointed when Megatron was back in the fourth movie because Megatron keeps coming back. And it's so annoying. He dies in the first movie. He dies in the second movie. He dies in the third movie. And and then he finally comes back and lives through the fourth movie as Galvatron.
Did you ever watch any of the Transformers cartoons?
No, I didn't.
He dies a lot in those.
Megatron was always the bad guy.
I
Spoiler
mean,
alert.
Megatron was always the bad guy. But, like, god damn, he keeps coming back.
I mean, that's just that's Hasbro for you.
Yeah.
Had it been Galvatron, I think I would have been okay with it. But the fact that they just like, nope, it's Megatron again. We're not even going to explain it. We're not even going to
Honestly,
say anything about it.
Quintessa shouldn't have even been in this movie. Galvatron, they set Galvatron up to be the bad guy in this movie, in the fourth one. And they should have ran with that.
So I did have a note that there is a lot going on. I was 25 minutes in, and I've already had at least like 15 seemingly major characters introduced or reintroduced, like because they brought back Totoro and they brought back fucking Lennox, aka Josh Duhamel, and all of that. But then I was just like, then it like turned out that like those 4 kids who were like trying to be all badass by going into the fucking area where they shouldn't have gone.
Never saw
They
him
didn't
again.
matter. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I didn't need to be introduced to them.
They
Like, that's-
were a vehicle to introduce the girl.
Which she didn't even really matter. So
Yeah. That's okay. So, to spin this into a positive, at least the movie. So the movie introduces a lot of really meaningless characters. Arguably, even Lennox doesn't need to be in this movie, but
yeah,
it never
no,
forgets them. It brings them all back.
except for the kids who helped introduce the girl.
But they were just a vehicle to introduce the girl. The girl was the meaningful. She was the meat of that scene.
Well, and Lennox, I mean, because Lennox has always in the past been like the one guy in the military who's like supposed to be on the good guy's side or whatever. And like he started out that way, it seemed like, but then he quickly was just like, Actually, I'm just gonna listen to the military and just chase you guys.
Well, Lennox
Try
has
to
Lennox has always been a character that's been trapped between a rock and a hard place because, like, moralistically, he knows what's right, but then, like, realistically, he has a career in the military, and that's what he's trained to do. I just feel like they leaned too far into that in this movie.
I bet he would have been way more on board with Mark Wahlberg if he had been hanging out with the boys, with his boy Tyrese. But
I know. I was
he
disappointed.
couldn't do the movie. He couldn't do the movie because he was doing the Fate of the Furious at the time.
Oh, it's wrong choice, Tyrese.
Another series that's overstayed its welcome.
I'm okay. Tim, you're making that comment as a joke in passing, but I'm saying this movie renewed my interest in the series.
This is just a little gem that I found in half-assed internet research that I didn't include that all. But so this was the second major film to be filmed in Cuba, and I was like, "This was filmed in Cuba," and I was like, "Oh yeah, there's that scene where they say that Castro's down with the robots."
Oh yeah, that was hilarious.
that scene was literally the second major movie ever filmed in fucking Cuba since the lift of the embargo, the major embargo. Then you know what the first was?
I was about to ask. Bad Boys 2.
Fast 6 or whichever Fast is in, it starts out in Cuba, which Tyrese was also in. Obviously.
Tyrese, he's just in tight with Castro.
I guess.
Well, isn't Castro dead now? I don't know.
Rest
Is he?
in peace.
I have no idea.
Maybe I
I feel like we end up wishing someone to rest in peace every episode.
exactly. So
People dying.
too many characters, too long. Really, you should not have an entire act of a movie just be explanation of what is going on in the movie. I
think the most gratuitous scene was where they were in Anthony Hopkins' castle, and he was just laying everything out for the audience, and I was like, this is just you're just really exposing how piss poor of how piss poor of writers you have on this movie.
Yeah, but at least they broke that up with some comedy from Cogman,
which was funny. I dug Cogman, and
Tim told me that he hated Cogman doing the singing and playing the organ and stuff.
Oh,
I thought that part was fucking hilarious.
That was hilarious.
I did not care for that. I was just shaking my head the whole time, why is this a thing? They could have skipped this. They could have cut this.
So funny, and they were making jokes about Mark Wahlberg's celibacy. That was
funny.
A good scene.
How long?
Yeah,
a while.
It's been
She's
a while.
a day.
Okay?
It's been a while.
Marky Mark.
Yeah. So the last thing that I wrote down for why it was bad was that it was so similar and literally just followed every beat of all of the predecessors.
It was pretty much exactly Dark of the Moon again.
Yeah.
Ain't broke, don't fix it.
Also, the pyramid that gets destroyed when fucking Cybertron gets to Earth.
Yeah.
Optimus Prime already destroyed that pyramid.
Yes, he did. In Revenge of the Fallen.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, Michael Bay. What the fuck?
Well, also, there were Transformers openly fighting in front of people's eyes in World War II, yet Transformers didn't even arrive on Earth until 2007.
Well, that's because the Wiccans were fucking hiding the fucking information.
Yeah, and Sam is apparently dead.
Sam Witwicky. He was a Witwiccan.
He was one of the Witwiccans, and he's apparently dead.
Yep.
Did they say he was dead, or I thought they just showed his picture?
They said she was the last of the Witwiccans, which would imply that he's dead.
Oh yeah, okay. But then he wait. Were the Witwiccans were the ones who descended from fucking Merlin? Because I thought that the Witwiccans were just the name of the order.
No, they were the ones that descended from Merlin.
Oh, so then what was the name of the order?
I don't remember.
I thought they were all called Witwiccans. I don't know. I guess that was...
See, that's the problem with the movie. There was too much stuff going on. You couldn't keep track of it all.
Or
Because yeah, like
was there
Turturro
not
got
enough?
admitted into the order, and I thought I thought Turturro became a Witwicken when he got admitted, but
No, it was definitely Merlin because it was about the DNA.
okay, fair enough. Well, no, I know that her being a descendant of Merlin was why she could make the staff do all the shit and stuff, but I didn't realize that the Witwicken was what they called the people who were carrying the DNA. I don't know. I didn't realize that Sam was carrying Merlin's DNA.
Yeah, I don't think they decided that until this movie.
Well,
Yeah,
clearly.
they really didn't. They really didn't.
Can you
Clearly.
imagine
You were-
in a writer's room, Michael Bay in 2006 is like, listen, he's going to be a descendant of Merlin. We'll get to it in like 12 years. It'll be okay.
Do you really expect continuity at this point?
Oh, God. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess you can't really. God. All right, well, so let's move on to what was the worst character.
Quintessa, by far.
Oh, that's a good
Terrible
one.
villain. Like, at no point to the story could have been completely written out and replaced with either Megatron or Galvatron, and it would have been fine. Absolutely useless. You can't convince me otherwise.
Patrick, what were you going to say?
I was going to say King Arthur because he was so inconsequential, but Quintessa is a good argument because and here's why is because when I was trying to answer this question, I didn't even think of Quintessa because she was so meaningless to the movie. I didn't even remember her.
I've got another very, very meaningless character to the movie that is also probably definitely in consideration for the worst.
Before you say this, I want to say if you're about to say Grimlock, I'm going to punch you in the face.
No, I'm going to go with Nemesis Prime.
Oh,
Because
yeah, that's
why the fuck did we need Nemesis Prime? He was so easily swayed into becoming Nemesis Prime, even though he spent his entire life fighting for humans, and then he just he comes back. The only thing he does is come back and has a fight with Bumblebee and Mark Wahlberg, and then he's swayed by Bumblebee's voice.
Well,
which sweet that we got to finally hear Bumblebee's voice, but he just like, oh, my oldest friend Bumblebee, I'll become Optimus Prime again and fight against the fucking, like, that was so fucking dumb, and it wasted a half an hour. If you cut that whole part out, you probably get the movie down to 2 hours, and it's actually like reasonable.
well, okay, but Nemesis Prime wasn't like he was swayed, it was just a curse that she put on him. Because if you notice, when he was Nemesis Prime, he had like the red on the left side of his face, and then you see Megatron when he's fighting for Quintessa, and he also has the red on the side of his face. And then and in the scene where he becomes Nemesis Prime, she like reaches out and touches him, and you see the red spread across his face.
It's basically mind control.
Okay,
Yeah.
that does not make it a less stupid fucking character.
I agree with that.
Better character.
I agree with that, but like I don't think that saying, "Oh, he was swayed into becoming Nemesis Prime and swayed back so easily." It's like hearing the voice of his friend is what broke the curse, but it wasn't like he was convinced to go against the humans. It was
Okay. But did I need the character of Nemesis Prime at all?
no.
Nope.
Yeah. No.
I mean maybe so no you didn't. Because Nemesis Prime essentially just filled the what was Leonard Nimoy's character's name in Dark of the Moon? He was a prime.
He was a prime. I don't remember his name.
Oh yeah,
he
I
was
forgot
a
about
prime.
the other Prime. Yeah.
And he filled that same role of like a prime trying to bring Cybertron to Earth.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that just I don't know. I mean, Quintessa I guess I kind of think that Optimus Prime was worse than Quintessa, or I mean Nemesis Prime was worse than Quintessa because like Quintessa was at least still like a villain.
yeah.
Whereas Nemesis Prime, you really didn't need it at all. Like that was just like a waste of a half an hour.
I'll agree with you on that. He was a waste, but at least he kind of had an arc.
He did have an arc.
Instead of Quintessa just being, "Hey, I'm the villain. I'm here." Get no explanation why.
But
she's
did you
just
not
the bad-
watch the post credits scene?
I
Oh
did
no,
not.
I did.
I definitely did not.
Quintessa
I
is
shut that
still
movie off
alive.
immediately.
Quintessa
Quintessa
is
is
still
alive.
she got away. Bumblebee did not kill her. She somehow transformed into a person.
Yes, Transformers. So I feel like I'm here to be the tiebreaker, and this is tough because Quintessa was totally worthless, and Nemesis Prime was also totally worthless. I think that God, I have difficulty going with Nemesis Prime because if Nemesis Prime hadn't existed, then we wouldn't have gotten the absolute awesomeness of Optimus Prime coming back to really kick some ass. Because that scene where they're like on the floating island and those Decepticons come at him and he just like cuts a row of them all in half all at once. It's like, that was fucking awesome. And as the audience, we felt like we had earned that because we were 2.5 hours into this movie.
Make a quest to make Optimus Prime find a sword. Boom. Over.
All right. Oh god. And maybe Quintessa is going to come back in the next one and be a big bad that Galvatron should have been. I'm giving it to Nemesis Prime. Sorry, Tim.
You dick.
You win these a lot.
I know I do. I
Yeah.
like winning.
Because I like winning. All right. So on the flip side, which character was the best / most compelling?
Oh, hands down, Cogman.
I had Cogman as my second choice. My first choice was Bumblebee because Bumblebee is easily the most endearing character in the whole series.
Oh yeah, easy.
And that's why they made a spinoff about him.
And BT
And you
Dubs.
finally get to hear his voice.
For anyone that didn't know, because I've discovered that people weren't aware of this, the Bumblebee movie got a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
Is Quintessa the villain?
I don't know. But I really want to watch Bumblebee. And one of our listeners was like, well, why don't you watch it for the podcast? And I was like, because that show is about bad movies. Bumblebee got a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. So
Not
It's
considered a
true.
bad movie. Wow.
This got 16%, so
I know. I think this deserves better than a 16%, but still.
I don't know about that, but
Patrick, what's your logic on Cogman?
He was so funny. And he
Was
was
funny.
like, he had that great dynamic, especially in the submarine, of like pushing Cade and Vivian together and like kind of fanning the flames of that romance while at the same time like being a dick to both of them.
Don't put your hands there.
Yes. There is a time and a place for everything. And this is neither the time nor the place. And like walks away. Cogman was so funny. And like singing and playing the organ. And then driving when he's driving the Lamborghini or whatever it is, God.
But was he actually driving it? The Countach? But was he actually? Because wouldn't the Transformer that it was be actually driving, and wouldn't he more or less be pretending?
No, because they were in a different car. I don't think it was the Lamborghini. It was like I don't even remember.
Okay,
But-
fair
wasn't it a Maserati or something like that?
It was some badass car, and he was driving it, and it was so funny. Like Cogman was great, great comic relief in a movie where I would expect comic relief to be very ham-fisted and bad, and they did it really well with Cogman.
But Bumblebee probably had the best line in the entire franchise in this movie.
Which
When
was,
he uses his actual voice and says, "Sting like a bee," and then shoots her.
I mean, I kind of thought that was cheesy. I didn't love Bumblebee's voice. I have always thought that part of what makes him so incredibly endearing is the fact that he speaks with the radio.
Well, yeah, that is totally part of that.
And I thought it was hilarious.
Well, he kept doing it after he got his voice back still,
Yeah.
though.
I thought it was hilarious when the Steve Buscemi robot came in and sold him the voice, and he was like,
And it was Siri.
"Yeah, that was so funny."
I did laugh at that.
Yeah, I
That's
definitely
actually
thought it was really funny that the voice that he sold him was Siri. Like that cracked me up. I was like, oh, that's good.
I think across these movies, Bumblebee is always number 1 or number 2 for me, and in this one, he's number 2 because I loved Cogman so much.
I did like Cogman a lot, and I really liked the I felt like he and Mark Wahlberg had good chemistry, which for a character,
Yeah.
like I wonder if the guy who did his voice, who's actually like the butler on Downton Abbey, I wonder if he actually was like there for filming, or if they just used a body double and had him record the voice stuff later. I don't know.
It's to have, for any actor to have that much chemistry with a CGI character, much less for an actor that's, let's face it, not the best, Mark Wahlberg, to have that much chemistry with a CGI character is impressive. Like, that's a good performance from both of them.
Yeah. One thing that I thought was pretty weird was the fact that, so I looked it up, and Mark Wahlberg was 45
God,
at the
so
at the
handsome.
time that this was shot. And then Vivian Wembley, Laura Haddock's character, would have been 31, and Mark Wahlberg's daughter in these movies would have been 21. So she would have been closer to his daughter's age than to his age.
makes him more of a hero.
So, in a series, Ben, you didn't see the fourth one, so
I saw the beginning of it. I've just fallen asleep every time I've tried to watch it. I've tried to watch it at least twice.
Don't bother, give up, because it was bad. In the fourth one, they have dialogue that explains why it's okay that the 21-year-old is dating the 17-year-old, and they mention like Jack and Jill laws or Romeo and Juliet laws.
Wait, 21-year-old dating a 17-year-old.
Yeah, in the fourth one, his daughter is like 17, and his daughter's boyfriend is like 21, and they address the fact that this is a statutory relationship, but it's okay because it's covered under Romeo and Juliet laws because they started dating before he was 18.
That's weird.
Yeah. So
That's really weird. That seems like almost like Michael Bay probably was like, yeah, we should include that because Michael Bay had such a weird thing for Megan Fox, and also it seems like he really, really tried to make Laura Haddock look as much like Megan Fox as he could in this movie.
when she had the bun and the glasses, I was like, who the fuck is this Megan Fox lookalike?
Yeah. The other movie that she's best known for is the other role that I knew her best for was she played the mom in Guardians of the Galaxy. She's the mom who has cancer in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy, good movie.
And Guardians of the Galaxy 2, actually.
Guardians 2, better movie.
I would definitely not agree with that. Guardians 1 is better than Guardians 2, but in any case.
Yeah.
So I guess we're on who is the best, most compelling.
Tim.
And
Sorry, I got to toss to Tim because I've been talking about Cogman too long.
Nah, it's all good. I enjoy it. Honestly, I'm gonna have to agree with Patrick on this one. I did enjoy Cogman a little bit more than I did Bumblebee in this movie.
I will admit that I didn't think about Cogman when I wrote down Bumblebee, and then like later, I the next name written down after Bumblebee is Cogman. I didn't write an explanation for why, but I wrote down Cogman. I thought Cogman was a great character too, so I'll concede that.
I really wanted it to be Hot Rod, but I can't give it to him for one specific reason: the fact that they give him a French accent, and it just pissed me off the entire time throughout that movie. It was absolutely unnecessary.
Oh, I thought that was pretty funny. I hate the accent.
Yeah, I did too.
No, the character
I
hated it
know.
and he didn't want it, but they had it anyways.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
I couldn't take it. I couldn't deal with it.
Fair enough. All right. Well, So we've talked about characters, so let's move on to the fifth question. And was it so bad it was good? I'm going to go ahead and say no.
No,
You
it
couldn't
was-
rewatch this. It's way too long.
I would
See,
totally
I've watched
rewatch this.
This is probably my third time seeing it now, so I can't say anything about rewatching it or not. But it's a bad movie, but I don't think it's the badness of it that makes it good. I think it's the fact that it's just a high octane action movie that, yes, it does get slow in some places, but it's very fun throughout.
Yeah,
But-
no, I mean the action sequences make it an adventure, certainly, and like that's it. It's fun to watch, but I don't think it's so fun that it is good. Despite it's bad.
I think that this movie was totally so bad it was good, because it was bad in like a really good way. It was really enjoyable while it was being very bad. It was very aware that it was very bad.
But it's so long.
It is really long, but I would definitely go back to it. And Tim, we know Tim would. Tim's gone back to it twice.
I have.
Tim has spent, let's put this in perspective. Tim has spent 7.5 hours of his life watching this movie.
I just can't give it the so bad it was good because I would not. I mean, eventually I might spend another 3 hours of my life watching this, but it was not. I can't give it the so bad it was good.
All right.
Just too long to be bad it was good.
Yeah, it would have been so much better if it was 40 minutes shorter.
Yeah.
And I think that applies to every Transformers movie except the first one. They all feel very long.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
The first
All
one,
right.
though, that was baller ass.
Oh, the first one was sick. So, would it have been better as a Netflix/HBO series? Tim, go ahead.
I don't think so. I mean, yeah, you probably could have split up a lot of the exposition throughout all the episodes, so it might have been
And
a
the
little bit more
character
coherent. But I don't think you could have stretched an already way too long movie into a 10 episode series. I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
But part of me is like, oh, well, if it was 10 like 30-minute episodes or 10 22-minute episodes, or I could be into that. I could be in for that. I think I could do that. Honestly, because then you're introduced. You don't have to introduce 15 characters in 25 minutes. There's a whole episode where those kids go wander into the place or whatever, and it starts to feel more normal when they introduce characters who you never see again, because you're like, oh yeah, some of these early episodes, they're just setting it up and they're giving me backstory on who these people are. And it's and I think it's kind of easy to say that you could turn most of these into a better but last week we said there's no way. The last one we said there's no
Final
way.
Destination.
Final
Yeah,
Destination, there was no
You
chance.
You can't.
But I think you could figure out a way to make this work and make it work better than having to make someone sit in a movie theater for 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah, focusing one episode per character, or focusing each episode on a different character and then coming back to the main characters as the plot lines collide, I think could have been really cool. But it's also, going kind of off what Tim was saying, it's tough for me to argue that this should have been extended when our biggest problem with the movie is that it should have been 40 minutes shorter.
But I don't have to binge watch 10 half-hour episodes. I could watch one,
would.
walk away, come back the next night, watch another, not unlike the way I watched Umbrella Academy.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. This is purely subjective because of how I have experienced the Transformers movies, but I prefer them as movies. And so I would say no, it would not be better I feel like I'm just playing moderator between you two tonight. I'm just breaking ties, but I feel like I would just say no, that this would not be better as a Netflix series because I like Transformers as movies.
Well, that's dumb.
Well, fuck you then.
All right, so now that we've answered some questions, let's move on to some unanswerable questions.
So many in this movie.
So the first one we have is, who is Quintessa? Like, they did not really answer that at all.
She's
like,
the maker?
was she though?
I don't. She was just another robot is the thing. It seems like she was another Transformer, just an ultra like high-tech Transformer that created other Transformers. And so it kind of comes into like the question of like, is there a God's God?
Yeah, I don't know.
But
but then like I thought that they'd already kind of set it up that the primes were sort of that, and so why isn't she called like Quintessa Prime?
Yeah,
or something. I don't know.
There was not nearly enough story with Quintessa.
Yeah, absolutely. So then the next one, why was there a conveniently abandoned town near Cade's junkyard, complete with skyscrapers
And
was-
power.
and working elevators?
Yeah, that's true. Kind of strange, but and this is just purely me playing devil's advocate here because it is ridiculous. It was something that I noticed early on in the movie when they introduced Isabel, is like this movie very much is like firmly in a post Transformers world, in like a world in which Transformers exist and they have existed for a while. And there is wreckage everywhere. There is fallout from the existence of Transformers. And so it makes an abandoned town slightly more digestible to me.
But then why are the elevators still working?
That I just got no answer for you on that.
The fact that power was still running through this town that no one apparently lived in, it was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Also, I want to talk about the freaking all the robots and stuff the TRF was using because they stole all of their technology from Star Wars.
You mean the TIE bombers?
No,
Yes!
You mean the Metal Gears.
Yes, no, I mean the ATSTs.
Oh my god, there was so much influence from so many different areas of sci-fi. It was almost as though they were just blatantly ripping them off. The walker robots at the very beginning, in the scene where they introduced Isabel with the 4 little kids, were very clearly Metal Gears. And then there were the TIE bombers that were the drones. And like there was so much that was just like very obviously heavily influenced, almost to the point I would say paying homage to certain robotic sci-fi, which is badass because we all know how much I love Metal Gear.
Fair enough. So next unanswerable, why wasn't there any pressure in the ocean?
Oh yeah. A glass submarine. I've never heard of a better idea.
Well, I mean, like James Cameron used, like the one that James Cameron used for Titanic and all of that. Like that, there are glass submarines.
Oh yeah.
But it just like, I don't think that a submarine could handle. I mean, I guess it was a Transformer submarine, so that's why it can handle. But the whole underwater state, I was just like, I don't feel like this is how pressure works.
I'm no scientist.
I'm no physicist, but I don't think that's how pressure works.
Not 100% sure. But also, I feel like in a movie in which we are so willingly believing that there are robots that transform into cars, arguing about pressure on a submarine would be splitting hairs. I agree with you. That's definitely not how pressure works.
Also,
How did Cogman get back in?
Oh, good point. Yeah, I didn't think about that. He launched himself out of it. Yeah, huh? I didn't think about that.
No, that's submarines have like an airlock type thing where they have a chamber.
Yeah,
you can
there are.
open up,
Fair enough.
get in, flush all the water out, come in.
I'll give you that one.
I don't think that's
For
how
now.
it works. I think that it's like more like there's a chamber, and then it's got like essentially they just build like a thing where so you can swim up into it, and then you're in air, like a air pocket, basically.
I think that's what they do for like underwater bases, like in Lost.
I don't know, but so then the other question we've already breached upon it, but how the fuck did Galvatron come back as Megatron? I don't know what Galvatron is, so I'm going to leave this one to you guys to puzzle over because I didn't see that part of the fourth movie, but
There's no explanation. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah. So Galvatron was essentially man-made using the material that Transformers are made out of, what they called transformium. And Megatron, I can't remember exactly how, but somehow gets his consciousness inside of this new body called Galvatron, and he escapes at the end of the movie and comes back as Megatron in this one. And there's no explanation for it whatsoever.
And his new body, the Galvatron body, is badass at the end of the movie.
Like, he's actually formidable. Like, he was set up to be such a great villain, and they didn't do a single thing with it.
Yeah, so throughout the movies, they've done a really good job of shitting all over Megatron, which kind of pisses me off because Megatron was a formidable opponent and a real badass in the first movie. And then in the second movie, they had to make the Fallen look super scary. So Megatron, they kind of, like, Megatron has always been sacrificed to make the newer villains look stronger. And they did it the same way in the third movie, and then at the end of the fourth movie, Galvatron comes in and it's like, wow, Megatron is badass again. And then in this movie, they got to make Quintessa look good, so they make Megatron look like dog shit.
But did Quintessa even look really that good?
No,
She didn't.
I mean, she looked good at the end of that movie. if you know
Oh,
what I mean.
God.
But I will say that the scene with Megatron talking to the lawyers was pretty fucking awesome.
Oh yeah, that
I
was
laughed my ass
hilarious.
off.
I want Berserker, and then Berserker never came back.
Yeah, they wouldn't let him out.
That's Mohawk was like the only one who they really like showed off that they bringing back. It seemed like
Yeah,
Mohawk. They really like enjoyed the fact that they brought back Mohawk. Which was Mohawk in the fourth movie because he wasn't in any of the first three.
I don't
No,
remember.
most of these guys were all new to this one.
Weird.
And they made a really big deal out of it, and that scene was awesome. Not only was it hilarious that he was negotiating with lawyers, but it was
And
like
then Josh Duhamel kept talking shit to the lawyers too. Lennox just kept like making the lawyers look dumb.
yeah, he's like fucking the buffer in between. He's mediating between Megatron and lawyers, and he's like he's making fun of the lawyers to get Megatron on his side and be like, all right, I'll be a little bit reasonable. But like,
he just kept dunking on those lawyers.
but that scene was awesome because not only was it really funny, but the tone and like the way they introduced those characters was really cool. And to see them just throw those characters down the shitter essentially in that one scene, except for Mohawk,
30 minutes, they were gone.
was
If
really
that.
dumb. I mean, they were very reminiscent of like the Monstars, and they just threw them away.
I've got a basketball, Jones. All right, well, that wraps up our unanswerable questions. So now we'll move on to our favorite segment, which we borrow from the Rewatchables on the Ringer Podcast Network, and that's Half-Assed Internet Research. So each week we start out our Half-Assed Internet Research with our box office info. So the budget on this film, which was the largest of any Transformers movie to date, I don't know if it was what the budget on Bumblebee was. So up until this movie was made, it was at least the highest budget on a Transformers movie. And it was $217 million, which is, I think, a record for the podcast as well. This is the largest budget movie that we've ever done on the podcast.
It's a lot of money.
It makes sense. I mean,
Because it's only 2 years ago too, and it's the most CGI. Well, and Michael Bay, who uses more CGI than any director,
and more pyro than any director.
Yeah,
explosions.
Crush. So yeah, opening weekend in the USA, it did 44.7 million. It opened on June 25th of 2017. That was apparently considerably less than they were forecasting. I think that I read that they were forecasting around 70, so it severely underperformed. The gross in the USA was 130.1 million. Internationally, which I think is where they were really counting on making most of their money back, it did 475.2 million. So in total, it did 605.4 million against a budget of 217 million. But that sounds good.
But relative to the other movies.
It was not actually successful. Reportedly, Paramount lost over $100 million on it, and the movie was considered a box office disappointment. So I guess they must have marketed the shit out of it and spent a shit ton on marketing, and therefore it was a flop because if they only spent $217 million and they made 605 and they lost over $100 million, then they had to spend a lot on marketing.
That's 500 million that went into probably toys as well.
Yeah.
And also stuff like that. Like if you want to look at the entire production.
And
Yeah.
I mean, the not to mention, like, shooting in Cuba is interesting, but they completely, I know I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but they like rewrote the third act of the fourth movie to take place in China so that they could shoot a large majority of the fourth movie in China. And as a result, the Chinese government, like, not only did they give tax incentives, but they like almost paid them to make that movie in China.
Well, so this one, they shot a lot of it in shot a lot in Michigan because and apparently Michigan gave them a shit ton of money to do it. So Paramount Pictures spent $80 million on production in Michigan. In return, Michigan gave them $21 million in state incentives. And then, so that's a big portion of why they shot in Michigan. But then they additionally shot in England as well as Cuba, and apparently they started shooting. Oh, and then in Phoenix, Arizona. They did a little bit in Chicago. So I mean, yeah, clearly Paramount is obviously interested in getting subsidies in where they're filming, but any film is interested in doing that. That's why Dumb and Dumber was shot in Colorado. That's why Hateful Eight was shot in Colorado.
No,
that's like, yeah.
It's a common thing, but like the fourth one, it was so egregious. They rewrote the movie, and like there was so much money coming from the Chinese government to shoot that movie in China, and that movie performed extremely well in China. And so
I think that the Transformers franchise as a whole has done very well internationally, and I think that's why they were counting on the international market to really boost the performance of this film, and it did not.
Yeah, it's a shame because I really liked it. Paramount, keep making them.
Well,
they are.
Let's
Go
talk
see
about
Bumblebee.
that. In 2015, Paramount Pictures decided that they wanted their own cinematic universe for Transformers, similar to Disney/Marvel's Marvel Cinematic Universe. But Paramount had been involved in that, actually, because they had made, I think, the first 2 or 3 even Iron Man movies.
I feel like Paramount was involved in Iron Man somehow.
Yeah, they were.
I think
Paramount.
It was the first 2. I don't think they were involved in the third one, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah, Paramount was initially involved in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So they once it got taken out of their hands in 2015, they wanted a piece of a pie, and so they decided they'd make their own pie out of Transformers.
And they started the first pie with the best piece, which was Iron Man 1, and now they're making a pretty bitchin' pie with Transformers.
Well, at one point in 2015, there were at least 12 future films planned for the Transformers universe. In 2017, Michael Bay said that there were like 14 finished scripts.
Yuck.
Jesus.
Were they all
But-
written by just like children and
No.
like,
So
a
they
factory in China?
they'd actually gotten what's his name? The Akiva Goldsman, who was the guy who wrote A Beautiful Mind. He like set up their writers' room, including people Christina Hodson, Lindsay Beer, Ken Nolan, Andrew Barrer, Gabriel Ferrari, Robert Kirkman from as people would know from like The Walking Dead, Zach Penn, Art Markham, Matt Holloway, Jeff Pinkner, and Geneva Robertson Dworet. So I mean, essentially they set up like the style of what writing room that a lot of these companies have. Like DC set up a similar writing room for their extended universe, which is terrible. So maybe it wasn't a good idea, but
It's gotten
yeah.
better. Let's be
So,
honest.
so they tried to do they tried to do that, and so that's where these 14 finished scripts that Michael Bay supposedly talked about came from. But by 2018, after they saw how this film performed, they basically scrapped most of the plans.
Oh no.
And so then we got the spin-off Bumblebee, and after Bumblebee, they said that there will be further sequels / spin-offs, but they have not announced any plans. There was supposed to be a direct sequel to this movie that was going to be coming out in May of this year, but that is clearly no longer in the works.
Well, there's one listed on IMDb, and movies listed on IMDb are typically come to pass. But there is one of them listed on IMDb, and so I guess I will hold out hope, because I would love to see a Transformers movie with both Shia and Marky Mark.
But you said it yourself, Shia is dead.
Well, and Mark Wahlberg's initially signed a deal for three movies, but he said that he's done after the two because there was a big like thing in his contract that said he could be released before the contract was finished, and so yeah, he's out. Michael Bay has also, after Age of Extinction, Michael Bay stated that he was leaving the franchise. However, he did announce that he was coming back for one last film in January of 2016, and that was this film. He has since said that he would not come back unless he was tempted by the story.
Well, so Michael Bay has been saying that since, a lot like Sakurai, after every Smash game, Masahiro Sakurai says he's done with Smash. But after every Transformers movie, Michael Bay says he's done with Transformers, and then he keeps coming back. And he agreed to come back for Revenge of the Fallen when they told him, you can make your passion project, which eventually turned out to be Pain and Gain. And then he made that movie, and then they were like, all right, well, you can do it. You can do Pain and Gain after Transformers 3. And so he made Dark of the Moon. And then finally Pain and Gain came out, and they were like, all right, but come on, come make one more. And he did that, and then he said, so he says that after every Transformers movie, but he'll make them until he dies.
Well, this was the least successful film in the franchise, including Bumblebee.
Fuck.
So, yeah. This movie was also critically panned. Our friend of the pod, Raj, was already passed at this when this movie came out, so he could not pan it.
4 thumbs up. 4 stars, 2 thumbs up.
But I've got some really great quotes from other people, other critics. So Peter Travers from Rolling Stone says, every time Michael Bay directs another Transformers abomination, this is the 5th, the movies die a little. This one makes the summer's other blockbuster misfires look like masterpieces.
Wow, that's harsh. That's harsh.
And then Mike Ryan from Uprocks said, I have no proof Transformers The Last Night will kill your brain cells, but I wouldn't be surprised to learn that it does. And I'd proceed with caution just in case. But I can say with absolute certainty that after watching, your head will hurt.
I enjoyed the movie, but I can't disagree with that.
So yeah, the one of the writers for this film, Matt Holloway, is a big fan of the drama TV show Downton Abbey, and he jokingly said that he wanted Jim Carter, who voices the butler, Mr. Carson, on the show. He jokingly said that he wanted him to voice Cogman, and then Michael Bay actually signed Jim Carter to play Cogman.
Damn.
All right.
Another huge name that can just somehow get magically signed onto these movies. I'm pretty sure Michael Bay just has video of like just a huge number of big names in Hollywood, all just in a massive orgy together, and he's blackmailing all of them into being Transformers.
I'm going to go ahead and go with that he has a large checkbook from Paramount Pictures that he can write checks to them with.
That's not as fun to theorize about.
I think he's just sucking all their dicks.
All right. So Steve Buscemi voiced Day Trader in this film, and Michael Bay had wanted Buscemi to play Agent Simmons in the original Transformers, but Buscemi was unavailable.
But
So
Turturro did a great job.
got him to be Day Trader. Turturro, everybody's second choice.
I like Turturro. And remember
I
when
did too.
Bumblebee pees on him in the first movie?
Oh, I really
Yeah.
like Turturro a lot, but he was the second choice for The Night Of also because they wanted it to be. It was originally written with what's his oh fuck.
The Night Of. Fuck that show.
No, that show was sick.
No, the
Never
first
seen it.
episode was
James
great.
Gandolfini. No, the whole show was great. But it was originally written with James Gandolfini in mind, and he was supposed to play him, but then R.I.P. James Gandolfini.
Rest
Could
in
not.
peace. Also, Raj, rest in peace. We're pouring one out for you, buddy.
So Tyrese Gibson was set to return as Robert Epps, as I mentioned earlier, but he was unable to appear in the film due to scheduling conflicts with The Fate of the Furious. Could have been interesting. Probably not gonna shed any tears because it didn't happen. But
It
Backed
wasn't
the
gonna add
wrong
that much.
horse.
It wasn't going to add that much to the movie anyway.
did he
to be
back the
honest.
wrong horse?
Yes, he did.
I
This was a
don't-
good movie. Last time I enjoyed
Fate of the
a
Furious
fast
isn't bad.
movie was 5.
You're retarded.
The last good Fast movie was Fast and Furious 3. Tokyo Drift.
No.
That was the last good one.
That was the
Not
first
bad.
bad one.
No, I loved, that's actually my favorite out of all of them.
Well, that's not what we're talking about.
Fair enough.
All right. So since we don't only watch bad movies and TV, let's talk about some of the stuff that we have genuinely enjoyed watching lately. Tim, we'll start with you.
I really haven't been watching a whole lot lately. I mean, I restarted watching Naruto lately, so I guess that's pretty much it. But I mean, other than that, no, I have not been watching a whole lot of TV.
Fair enough. Patrick, how about you?
So I watched WWE Fastlane on Sunday, and it wasn't bad. It was
Tim said he
interesting.
didn't like it.
He lies. It was garbage.
No, the last Ride of the Shield was pretty good. There were a few good matches. It was enjoyable, and the Adnan Syed documentary series started on Sunday, so I'm super psyched to watch that.
I watched the first one on Sunday. It was pretty good. Yeah.
No
But that's not what
spoilers.
I was going to talk about this week. I finally started The Good Place, which you guys had both mentioned and talked about how good it was, and I'd heard from other people that it was really good. So yeah, I finally just sat down and gave it a start. And I also actually have recently started watching Spartacus.
Spartacus
because-
is pretty low production value.
Yeah, no, I would say that's my biggest complaint about it. One of my friends at work is a big fan, and he told me that he really thought I would enjoy it, and I actually have been enjoying it genuinely. They're just it's like a lot of the time I don't really want to sit down and watch an hour-long TV show, so that makes like something like The Good Place a lot easier to like just
Yeah.
get into because it's not so dense.
And the Good Place follows that really good formula of like always introducing a mystery at the end of the episode. So it's been 6 hours, you're still watching The Good Place, and it's like, how the fuck is this happening?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But Spartacus, is that show still going?
No,
Oh.
there's just the four seasons of it that exist. And I also found it very interesting that the main character died in the middle, and so they had to replace him because he got cancer and
The
died.
actor died of cancer. That was horrible.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. But it was like that was. I think the production values really got in my way of Spartacus when it first came out.
Well, and so that's like the first episode. I was like, I don't know if I can handle this. And then I got into the second episode, and because the first episode so much takes place like out in the world, and that first episode they have to really like they green screen a lot, and it's like
Oh yeah,
bad.
they green screened the whole show.
Well, and so but then when they move into like the parts where it's just like actually people training in a yard, they don't need to green screen that because it's like, oh, we have a yard. We can have people train in the yard.
Oh,
and so
we have a yard.
it's like that. Those parts are a lot better, definitely. So like that's it. But yeah, I will say that it's definitely you can tell that they don't have the budget that Game of Thrones does.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
All
we're
right.
1 month away for that.
Yes, I'm so excited, and Patrick's the only one who's not.
Sue me.
You need to watch it.
You should.
You really need to. It's so good.
Well, that wraps up this week's discussion of Transformers: The Last Night. Don't forget to check out our incredible website, coldnorthpro.com,
What a great website.
where you can see everything we do in one place. Listen to us weekly on our other gaming podcast, Hard Reset. I guess I should say our other gaming podcast.
Yeah, you were putting the emphasis on the wrong thing there. Our other gaming podcast. This podcast has been all about a game, by the way.
But that other podcast is called Hard Reset. And next time, we'll be watching the 1990 film from Claudio Fragrasso, Troll 2.
Oh, God.
See you next time, and don't forget, no refunds.